Thanks. Yeah.
I mean, I'm all for your tits being out, to be honest.
Subscribe!
Subscribe! Boom, boom.
Welcome back to my channel and welcome to another vintage tips and tricks video. Today I am very excited to be a guest. You're watching my video but not in my space.
No, she's travelled.
I'm taking over, I'm staying, I'm never leaving.
That's fine, that's absolutely fine. A lot of my friends do just stay here.
I am here with the lovely Jade from Scarlet Range Vintage and also the brains behind the Vintage Woman magazine. But rather than chatting a bunch about her, I will let Jade introduce herself and tell you a little bit about what she does.
So, my name is Jade. I am a vintage dealer. I run SRV, which is known as Scarlet Range Vintage. I have been selling vintage since the age of 18. I'm second generation vintage dealer as well. And basically, I used to have a shop in Crouch End, which won many, many awards. I sourced vintage for shows such as Downton Abbey. I have styled many of the actresses for red carpet, and now I have a studio down south because I got engaged and wanted a house because I'm a hoarder. So I moved out of my beloved North London, which was where I'm born and bred, and I now live on the south coast near the beach. It's crazy because I'm born and bred in London, so literally like I was very used to very small confined spaces. But suddenly when I had the shop and then I wanted to sort of move and have a bigger house, I couldn't afford it in London. And we got engaged to my husband now, and I literally was just like, I've done everything I needed to do in London. I now need a house and a garden, and I've got 2 dogs, so I wanted to just literally be domestic. Well, I'm not really domestic. I'm an absolute workaholic. I'm a workaholic as well. But I needed a new challenge, and this is the new challenge.
Yeah.
And I've been here 2 years now.
And
loving it.
People come to see you like happily, don't they?
Yeah, I literally for the past, so since Christmas, I have not really had a day off. Literally, I've had someone around my house or I've been organising stuff. Yeah, I haven't had a day off. What's days off? What's one of those?
Yeah, I think as a freelancer you don't really know what that is. You
no.
can, like, working in your pajamas is all very nice.
Fabulous.
But often it's not a choice. It's just that you woke up, picked up your phone, and then it became dinner time, and you haven't eaten, you haven't showered, and all you've done is work the entire time.
Yeah, my husband comes home from work, and he'll come in at a set time, because obviously he works a set time, and he'll be like, so what are you doing? I'm like, working. What do you think I'd be doing? I'm going to work and probably until about 12 o'clock tonight. Love you. Who's cooking dinner? But he gets it, so it's kind of great. That's why I married him. He basically knew my work ethic from the get-go. So there was no, like, when we got back together, like when we started dating 5 years ago, there was no sort of like, here's me, I'm going to pretend that I'm not a workaholic. He knew it from day one.
So, like we were talking about earlier, not the Miss Maisel thing of like faking it to lure a man in, or like, taking your eyelashes off an hour after he went to bed.
Eyelashes? I didn't even know how to put those on. Literally, have you watched my videos? I can't do a vintage. I try and watch people who are very good and very talented, and I try and recreate their looks, and it goes horrible. So yeah, there's none of that.
One of 2 reasons that you should be watching Jade's channel. Definitely check it out. I will link it below and up above, because Jade actually knows what she's talking about when it comes to shopping and buying vintage. Like, yeah. I give my tips that I've learned along the way, but I am not an expert. Today we're going to get into some real expertise. If you are new to vintage and you want to know what is out there and where you could potentially end up, it's in this room.
I got the rareness. Yeah. I got the beauties. I got the real sort of holy grails I've got.
Yeah. The stuff you are not going to find in the corner store anymore. Maybe 15 years ago, if you were really lucky, you might have stumbled across this, but not now.
Yeah, no, I specialise in rarity. So I specialise in vintage from the 1920s to the 1950s, but within that I specialise a lot in print and rare. So I will get the Adrians and, you know, the really magical prints and that kind of stuff. That's what I'm known for.
If you have ever been on Laurie, so Greyhound Vintage's Instagram account, and been like, where does that woman get those amazing colours and prints from?
It's from me.
Yeah.
I'm her pimp. She puts them together amazingly. Just an FYI, she is the most stylish woman I've ever met in my whole entire life. Yeah, but I source a lot of Laurie's wardrobe, but she puts it together fabulously.
So in terms of, we're talking sourcing now, and I think this is a big thing. A lot of people ask me, you guys often ask me in DMs and in comments below videos, why is vintage so expensive, number one, and number two, how do we find real pieces? And they're two very connected questions. You're kind of in some ways answering it yourself. So Jade, can you go into what does it take to be a vintage dealer, to be a vintage sourcer, and why the price tag? Why is it that people should be, you definitely should be paying the price tag, as long as you know you are dealing with someone that knows what they're talking about. So
okay, so basically I'm second generation vintage dealer, so I'm gonna give you a bit of backstory. My mum was a vintage dealer in the 70s in Camden, so she was working on the cobbles. It's a nickname for Camden, the cobbles. If you go into Camden, the first alley thing is all cobbled. That is where my mum was trading. And then my parents basically had a shop on a street, a very famous street in London, where they sold antiques. So I'm second generation vintage clothing and antiques. Both my parents are very well known in the business for doing what they do, and I basically grew up from the age of like 2. Well, I was actually born on a market stall, to be fair. So for me, I have to travel all over the world to source. I cannot find the stuff that I buy, particularly that I have down the road in a charity shop, and I buy it for 50p. No, I have to travel thousands of miles. And if you think about it, if you're traveling for stuff, it costs a lot of money. You know, air travel, hotels, everything like that, food, accommodation. I also can't really normally go on my own because I have a quota of stuff that I need to buy. So I need to buy a minimum of 200 pieces to make it worth it for me.
this is per trip,
Per trip, yeah. Because anything less than 200, or it goes from like 150 to 200. That's kind of where I try and get. And when it gets to like under 100, cost-wise, the pieces would be crazy money, because obviously you have to work that into the factor of buying and sourcing. So I have to fly all over the world to source the stuff. Then I have to have private appointments. Now I've built up my appointments and people that I've known who sell me stuff for years. I've built up a reputation. I have built up a rapport with these people. I've worked really hard. There are some people that I go and see that literally refuse me access to their storage or their vintage for 4 or 5 years. And it's taken me 4 or 5 years to get in and gain trust from them to get into their storage or to get into their collection. It's not sort of me going in and just being a rabbit in a hat and going, yeah, I'm going to buy it all. No, there's a lot of tactile sort of negotiation that you have to do with a lot of people. And also, if you're dealing a lot with collectors, they love the stuff.
Yeah.
They're emotionally attached to it. So you can't wrench things away from certain people that are emotionally attached. So that might be a long haul kind of situation. I might have to sit on something for like 5 years. To wait until that person is ready to let go of that said piece.
They want it to go to a good home.
Yeah. And it's also the fact that they have to understand what you do. And I respect vintage. I respect what I do. I don't think it's a hobby for me. This is my life. It's always been my life. So there's a lot of that, of sort of building up a lot of rapport and a lot of things. And then also, I have to pay money. I don't buy stuff for 20 quid and then put 20 quid price tag. I like to make at least like 20%, but sometimes I don't. Sometimes I buy it because I think I love it and it's amazing and it's a key piece and I must have it in my collection or in my warehouse or storage because I have a client for it, or I'm just obsessed. There's things that I've lost money on because I just wanted to have it because it was just so incredible. And then there's the cleaning, and then there's the working of if it needs stitching, that kind of stuff. Some stuff I won't touch, I'll just sell as is because I'm not too much of an expert, but I will seek maybe experts. Like I have a really expert tailor who is not cheap, but she's incredible. So when you're getting stuff worked on, I'm paying money to my seamstress. I'm not paying like a cup of tea and a bun. Most pieces are like 20 to 30 pounds.
Yeah.
To have work done on them. And some people will be like, oh, but that's too much to pay a seamstress. No, it's fair wage. They're incredibly talented at what they're doing. They're doing something that I can't do. They have to make money.
Exactly, and I have a video about this actually with Nana of Splendid Stitches.
Okay.
Talking about the fact that like if you're going to invest in a vintage piece,
and
it doesn't even really matter whether you got it at the corner store or not, you can't go and rebuy that. It's not H&M. Once you have that piece, if you love it, if you take it to a standard tailor that does modern techniques on it, they could destroy it.
Oh, massively.
Or if you decide at some point you don't want the piece anymore, like vintage is an investment, you can sell it on to someone else. I mean, the number of people that I see on Instagram where someone has written underneath, if you ever want to sell this, let me know. You can completely destroy the future of your piece as well if you get someone overlocking it, taking shoulder pads out. That's my biggest pet peeve. Beautiful 40s suits with the shoulder pads ripped out because they're like inside the suit. They're not stuck in at the last minute like a lot of modern pieces are. It's part of the structure. You're destroying the garment.
Yeah, so I use a very good tailoresses who know their shiznay.
Yeah.
Like I can go to them and say, listen, this is beautiful. It's not structurally too sound. What do you think? And they will tell me a complete and utter honest truth. Like, I will stitch this for you, but you better have this in your archive.
Yeah. This
isn't an everyday. And I have an archive of stuff that is just not really wearable pieces, but pieces that are showpieces, stuff for inspiration, for designers, maybe costume, where they want to copy and they want to take certain rivets, certain details that are very authentic to that piece and redesign it into the costume that they're making. I have that. So I have a very honest tailor who will tell me that this will not be going around for the next 30 to 40 years, but I tend to buy things that definitely have longevity in them. Then, so I've brought it back, I've then got it fixed, cleaned it, everything like that. I then shoot it on a model. So I shoot a lot on models, I shoot it on a background, I shoot it myself. So there's also time and effort going into that. I have to pay my model, obviously her expenses and actually her day rate, which I do. Because obviously that's another person that's giving me their time. Don't get me wrong, I have friends that I do shoot on, but I do favours for them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we work in favour kind of situations, but Sam, who is one of my models, who is Blossom and Buttercups, I pay her. Like I pay her daily rate and I don't negotiate with her.
And she's incredibly experienced at what she does.
She's magical.
Yeah.
Pay money. Like literally, that saves me money because she knows how to A, model, B, she's extremely professional, and we can shoot probably about 100 to 150 pieces in a day, and I shoot fast. I'm an ex-fashion editor, so I am kind of very savvy to how to shoot and how to style, but having a well-experienced model helps. So that's a lot of factors that come into an individual piece and vintage. So that's where I go, you pay the price. And also, I'm not buying stuff that is something that you can find every day in a thrift store.
Yeah.
I'm buying stuff that is rather rare.
I think a lot of people don't understand that, particularly when you've got something like Instagram where obviously people are putting their best forward.
Yes.
What you see people wearing on amazing accounts where they look really fashionable, that they are the items that incredibly wealthy people wore, that people wore to church, that people wore to special events. And I've said this in other videos, the reason these items are still out there a lot of the time is they haven't been washed over and over again. We receive vintage items that maybe have never been washed because people used to wear sweat guards and things because they knew that they could damage the item by doing that, and they only wore the item once or twice a year.
Yeah, it was their Sunday best.
Exactly.
It was on the best. It wasn't something that they were wearing every day. It was on the best occasions. Don't get me wrong. There is a lot of everyday vintage that has survived, but that's because the owner has been super careful. They probably didn't have a lot of money, so they really loved and cherished that piece. And then they also probably stitched it, did all the work to it to make sure that it would survive for the next generation, or a hand-me-down kind of situation. There was a lot of make, do, amend kind of situation, especially in the UK. But a lot of people appreciated their clothing a lot more then than what we appreciate our clothing now, because they didn't have fast fashion. We do.
Exactly.
They couldn't go down Primark.
Plus, you cherish something when you've gone and had it made for you, and you've said to someone, like, someone's picked they've chosen the cut for you. Obviously, it fits your body, but they've also chosen a style that suits you, a material that suits you.
Yeah.
If you've gone and put that effort in and the money, and I mean, back in those days,
it wasn't cheap.
That's a lot of money to spend on an item of clothing. You look after it.
I mean, I think like a Lillian suit or a Fred A. Block suit used to be a couple of $100s. That was like $1,000 now, like common slang there, £1,000, like £1,000 in this day and age. So if you think about it, if you were buying a Lillian or a Fred A. Block, you were putting some money down on an investment piece, and that's why I'll always find Lilies that are incredibly great, unless I found a couple where the woman really had a good time in it.
Well,
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So that's where I come from on why you have to pay the price.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't go to thrift stores. I don't buy in thrift stores. I don't have the time to buy in thrift stores. There's a lot of vintage dealers that have the time and the ability to do that. I can't. I don't have that. I'm a workaholic.
Yeah, because there's more. There's
a lot more sort of like things that go on in my life that I have to juggle, like Vintage Woman, other businesses, and then, you know, vintage and clients and everything.
Yeah, and people are paying you, and I've said this before in videos about how to start shopping for vintage. You're going to need years of research and experience before you really know what you're talking about to make sure that if you're buying a piece that is cheap because someone doesn't know what they're talking about,
which is very rare, but it can be done.
It can be done.
It can be done. I've seen some absolute bargains that have happened on Instagram, but that's a very rare thing, and you'll stalk that Instagram again for the next 5 years and they will never have the same thing again.
Exactly. You can come to Scarlet Rage Vintage and you know every time it's going to be filled with absolute gems, and that if you purchase something online, the measurements will be right.
Yeah.
The error will be right. The dates will be right.
Yeah, I mean,
the piece is wearable.
Yeah,
it's clean, ready to go.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time and effort, and also the fact of I also have a lot of women around me that are extremely clever. I have a fashion historian, Liz Dragenza, who is also a vintage dealer, or Anna Christine, who is another vintage historian, that if I am ever worried about something, I know I can hit up someone I know and go, dude, what is this? I know it's something like this, but you're probably going to know what date it is and the advert from it. Which, funny enough, Liz has done a couple of times to me, and I'm just like, I love you. You're fabulous. And she's like, thanks, okay, bye. But, yeah, it's the fact of, like a taxi driver, I've done the 10 years of knowledge, so I know what I'm doing.
So, I mean, we can go on forever about this. We already talked so long before we even started shooting.
Yeah.
But, as I said, Jade has an amazing channel. You guys should go and check it out. There is tons more information and also interviews and get-togethers with other fabulous vintage ladies on there that also share knowledge and information.
Yay!
And
knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power. And also realness. If you want to go and watch some videos where, like, Jade touches on some great, interesting, modern subjects, because let's face it, vintage style, not vintage values.
Yes, massively, massively.
This is a great channel to go and check out for that. So
I don't want to live in the 1950s, FYI. I very much like being able to vote.
We don't need to. Like, look at all of the vintage that we've got the style.
We have the style, but
just the things.
Just not the mental side of that. No oppression here.
Q&A time with the dogs.
Are you gonna be camera ready?